This place was settled by the Romans in the 1st century and is a true history lasagna and was the capital of a world empire. London is a world-class city that honestly has something for everyone. But where do you even start, and what don't you miss?
London is big. Too big, a metropolis and one of the largest and most influential cities in the world. 2,000 years of history, a tangled mess of streets, with more must-see sites and mega monuments than you can cram into one trip. So how do you actually see the best of it without wasting your time on the overhyped, overcrowded, and downright disappointing? We're breaking it down neighborhood by neighborhood, what's worth it, what's not, and how to make sure you go home with stories worth telling.
I'm Angel Castellanos for The Tour Guide, and today I'm going to give you the formula of all the things you should not miss here in London.
We created the perfect route and plan to get you from A to Z. Check out our tours and online guidebook with curated information on maximizing your time and increasing your fun. Before we start, hook me up with a like and subscribe so I don't get fired. I really love this job. Let's start where it all happens, the historic core. Westminster. This isn't just a neighborhood, it's where kings, queens, and prime ministers have played their high-stakes games for centuries. You've got Westminster Abbey, the country's most famous church, and the site of every coronation since 1066. Right next door, the Palace of Westminster, better known as the Houses of Parliament, with a photogenic clock tower we all incorrectly call Big Ben. A short walk up Whitehall, you'll hit the Churchill War Rooms, where Britain's most famous prime minister saved Western civilization during World War II. Keep going, and you'll land at Buckingham Palace, the home of the monarch and a place where tourists gather for the changing of the guard. And when you need a break, there's St. James's Park and Green Park, two of London's most scenic green spaces. This is Westminster. Royalty, politics, and a whole lot of power plays. Let's dive in.
Royalty is a combination of myth and reality. William Shakespeare famously called this island the Sceptred Isle of Kings. And if you're going to come to one location in London to find out about royal history, it's got to be Westminster Abbey, where all the monarchs have been crowned since 1066.
So this is the essential route, packed with iconic sites, political power, and a front row seat to royal pageantry that makes London special. If you want to start the day inside Westminster Abbey, be there at 9:30 a.m. when it opens. It's quieter, the air is still thick with centuries of coronation, and you'll beat the masses. Then step outside and cross Parliament Square and snap a pic of Big Ben and the Palace of Westminster, the 19th century neo-Gothic behemoth where British politics happens. If you time it right, 10:30 a.m. at Buckingham Palace or 11 a.m. at Whitehall, you'll witness one of Britain's most choreographed traditions, the changing of the guard. It's part pageantry, part military exercise, and entirely designed to remind the world who's in charge here. The changing of the horse guard at Whitehall is quieter and often less crowded.
A walk you should consider taking here in London is a walk down a street called Whitehall. It extends from Trafalgar Square all the way to the Houses of Parliament. And it gets its name from a palace that stood right here. And King Henry VIII took that palace over, and it became a residence of the monarchs in the 16th and 17th century. Now this street is full of different monuments and government buildings. The Prime Minister lives right over there at number 10 Downing Street, and the only remaining part of that palace is right over there. It's called Banqueting House, where on January 30th, 1649, the only king to ever be publicly executed, King Charles I, was beheaded.
If Westminster is all royalty and tradition, the city, London's Square Mile, is where things get serious. This is the financial heart, where Romans built their first version of London and where money, power, and history collide. It starts at the Tower of London, a 1,000-year-old fortress, prison, and execution site, because nothing says British history like a good beheading. Next door, Tower Bridge. No, not London Bridge, the actually impressive one. Speaking of London Bridge, it's here too, but it's just a normal-looking bridge. Close by, you'll see St. Paul's Cathedral, where royalty and war heroes all had their big moments. From there, you'll cross Millennium Bridge, the futuristic-looking walkway across the River Thames. This is the city. Old London, New London, and a whole lot of steel, glass, and history packed into one square mile. London wasn't always London. Before the royals, the palaces, and the empire, it was just another Roman outpost. Start with a piece of the original Roman wall, an easy-to-miss section of ancient London hidden in plain sight, but still standing after nearly 2,000 years. Back then, the city of London was called Londinium, just another colony in a growing empire.
One of the top things to see here in London, without a doubt, is the Tower of London. It's 900 years of history, and it's so important that the crown jewels are actually kept here.
It's hard to understand London without visiting the Tower, but you won't be alone. 3 million people visit the UNESCO World Heritage Site each year. Book your tickets and tours well in advance to beat the crowds, and don't forget to check out our Tower of London episode for more. From the Tower, cross the iconic Tower Bridge. You'll get views of the average-looking London Bridge just down the river, and you can follow the Thames to St. Paul's Cathedral, which was rebuilt after the Great Fire of 1666, where prime ministers, war heroes, and even Lady Diana Spencer had their moment under the legendary dome. Finally, walk across the Millennium Bridge, London's most famous pedestrian crossing. This is the City of London, the Square Mile, where medieval towers sit next to glass skyscrapers, and history isn't just preserved, it's buried under centuries of power and reinvention. Skip the tube for this one. This route is best done on foot.
The first record of Covent Garden dates back from 1200, and this was the very first public square in the city, designed in 1630. The market we know today dates back from the 17th century as a fruit and vegetable market. Today, this is such a chill area to shop, to eat, to hang out. That's exactly what I'm about to do.
The West End is theaters, neon lights, shopping streets, and the kind of energy that makes you feel like something's always happening. Start at ground zero, Trafalgar Square, the point from which distances in London are measured, a stage for protests, celebrations, and a whole lot of pigeons. Towering over it all is Lord Nelson, standing high on his column, a hero of Britain's naval supremacy. Behind him, the National Gallery and the National Portrait Gallery, home to masterpieces and portraits of famous royals. The entry is free, by the way. Aside from mega monuments and museums, there's a ton to see in the West End. A few streets away is Covent Garden. Once a vegetable market, now it's a mix of high-end shops and street performances. Duck into my favorite area, which is close by. It's called 7 Dials. It's a tangle of 7 converging streets packed with boutique shops, cozy cafes, and an atmosphere that still feels like old-school London, but with a modern twist. Keep walking, and you're in the heart of the theater district, where London's biggest shows play night after night, from Shakespeare to Andrew Lloyd Webber, and visiting Broadway shows at a fraction of the price. Then there's Soho. Neon lights, back alley jazz bars, and a history that's equal parts scandal and reinvention. Just around the corner from there is Carnaby Street, which is Instagram famous. It was once the epicenter of London's swinging 60s fashion scene. Now it's a haven for independent boutiques and quirky pop-ups. Next up, you got Piccadilly Circus, London's chaotic answer to Times Square, where the famous double-decker red buses weave between the crowds and the city pulses with neon energy. You can end at Regent Street, the grand boulevard where shopping is a sport and every storefront looks like it belongs in a palace. This is the West End, where London trades royal pomp for late nights, big crowds, and a damn good time. If the West End is London on overdrive, Kensington and Hyde Park is where the city slows down. Start at Hyde Park Corner, marked by the massive Wellington Arch, a monument to Britain's favorite habit, winning wars and defeating bad guys. This is one gateway into Hyde Park, London's biggest green space and backyard. Cross into Kensington Gardens, the city starts to feel even more refined. This is the home to Kensington Palace, where royals still live behind stately brick walls. Nearby, you'll find the Albert Memorial, Queen Victoria's over-the-top tribute to her late husband. And just across the road, Royal Albert Hall, London's most iconic concert venue. This is Kensington and Hyde Park, where London trades noise for nobility and history for a quiet stroll.
One of the unique things about London is the amount of green spaces throughout the city. You have Green Park, St. James's Park, and the biggest and baddest is Hyde Park. It's 350 acres of green space, paths, it's dog-friendly, there's lakes, and you can just have a nice time enjoying the sunshine when the sun is actually out. On the west side, you have the Palace of Kensington, and right next to it, you have one of the best playgrounds in the city if you have kids, the Princess Diana Memorial Playground. Princess Alice was the 6th daughter of Queen Victoria and was an artist. So in 1897, for the Queen's Diamond Jubilee, she sculpted this beautiful statue of her mother to not only commemorate her birthplace here in 1819, but her long reign as Queen. Queen Victoria also ascended to the throne right here at Kensington Palace, and this is definitely one of the top things that you should check out, not only in Hyde Park, but also adjacent to the palace. One of the cool free things that you can check out here in London is the sunken garden right next to Kensington Palace. You might remember it from Prince Harry's engagement announcement, but it was actually built in 1908 in the style of Hampton Court. And now they've unveiled a new statue to Diana, Princess of Wales, which was debuted by both of her sons here in 2021.
Kensington and Hyde Park are where London breathes. At the heart of Hyde Park, you have the Serpentine, a man-made lake where rowboats glide past swans and the bravest locals swim year-round. Nearby is a Serpentine bar and kitchen, which is a good place to pause, especially if the weather's good. Look up and you'll spot the Albert Memorial, Queen Victoria's golden Gothic tribute to her husband, a man who shaped the city more than most people realize. And just across the road, the Royal Albert Hall, a stage where everything from rock concerts to royal guests unfold beneath the dome ceiling, echoing for more than a century of performances. For a taste of royal life, afternoon tea at the Orangery at Kensington Palace is as regal as it gets. Built in 1704 for Queen Anne as a greenhouse for exotic citrus trees, it soon became a gathering place for nobility. Power, marriage, and scandal were discussed over tea. Today, it's a chance to sip fine teas and enjoy fresh scones where the Queen once entertained. Towering windows, elegant columns, and a setting steeped in history that makes it more than just a meal. It's a tradition perfected. If London has an intellectual heart, it's Bloomsbury, where poets, philosophers, and revolutionaries once debated the meaning of life over tea. At its center, the British Museum, a mostly stolen treasure chest of human history. The British Museum isn't just any museum, it's a time capsule of human civilization, a place packed with treasures, artifacts, and depending on who you ask, a collection that isn't entirely Britain's to keep. Getting here is easy. It sits in Bloomsbury, which is a short walk from the Tottenham Court Road or Holborn tube stations. And here's the kicker, it's completely free. But to make sense of the collection that spans over 2 million years of human history, you should probably get a guide. The highlights include artifacts from the greatest civilizations on Earth, including the ancient Egyptians and Mesopotamians.
Well, that's it for our time here in London, so I'm gonna wash the day down with another pint. I'm Angel Castellanos for the tour guide. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and smash that bell so you can find our next video. Happy travels.